Congressman Joe Sestak. He is a congressman from the 7th District. It's eastern Pennsylvania, around the Philadelphia area, Delaware County. And he is the highest-ranking former military officer serving in Congress. Congressman, welcome to KDKA Radio.
Grant, thanks very much for having me back.
And you're running against Arlen Specter.
That I am.
How's that? And you're running against the party as well.
Yes, I am running against the establishment, although I'm a big believer in the democratic principle. But I didn't believe there should be an anointment of someone who is part of the GOP leadership. And in the U.S. Navy, when somebody ran a ship aground like the Republican leadership has done over the last 8 years, you relieve them for cause. You don't reward them. I just think there's a new ideas, a new set of energies that need to be out there, and that's why I'm running.
Well, we Republicans are glad you've taken Arlen Specter, because we who knows what he's going to do. It seems to me that he does what's right for him rather than what's right for his constituents.
It's interesting you say this, because I joined up during the Vietnam War in the U.S. military. I graduated from high school. And at that time, the Gallup poll actually ranked the military 15 out of 15 in terms of public confidence. Then I got out of the military 3.5 years ago. We were number one. But I went to Congress that was dead last. And I think it's because too many politicians place principle underneath their own political calculation or their own job. Mm-hmm. And if we don't change that, even more than the dire economic straits we're in, is what is most harmful to America's future.
Now, it's interesting. Washington, the National Equality March took place on Sunday.
Yes.
And you, a former military officer, you helped gather signatures on a petition urging an end to Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Tell me why.
When I went to war, and I was on the ground as head of the anti-terrorism unit of the Navy very early for a short period of time in the war in Afghanistan, then when I came out, I commanded an aircraft carrier battle group for retaliatory strikes. We knew, because of public surveys, that a certain percentage of those I went to war with were gay. How could I come home and say that these men and women who served our country in a war don't deserve equal rights? For me, it's just very simple. Everybody's equal, you deal with it, you move forward. And that in a nutshell is why. It's a discriminatory act, and that's not the kind of ideals we're protecting. We work to integrate men and women of color. We work to integrate women into our military, and now we're just going to move forward and orient ourselves towards saying everybody's created equal with the GLBT community.
Congressman, I might not agree with all the arguments on the equality, but I'll tell you what. On this, I agree with you. Your job performance ought to be based on performance.
Yes.
Not on what your sexual preference is or sexual arrangement is. It doesn't matter. We have anti-discrimination laws against heterosexuals. Those should apply to the homosexual community. I hear every time we discuss this on the radio, I hear guys call up and say, I don't want to be taking a shower next to some gay guy. And I say, how would you know? How would you know? Maybe you have at the golf club.
We absolutely. We know we know what percentages of our community is gay. You're absolutely spot on. Look, here's the other way I look at it. In an aircraft carrier, 5,000 sailors live. Their average age, believe it or not, is 19 and a half. The youth of America just don't care if you go out and you're amongst them very much. They just, this idea of equality has truly gained, equality increasingly, whether it's of color or gender orientation, it's just taking hold stronger in each of our younger generations.
Congressman, it must disappoint you, because this is one of the first things, I guess he mentioned it at least a half dozen times during his campaign. President Obama said this is one of the first things he would do after taking office, and he's not only not done it, he's neglected to even address it.
Yeah, I believe the president initially did the right thing at the beginning of his administration and addressed the cratering of our economy. When it's pretty intense still, but it's not intensifying. Then he rightfully addressed healthcare reform. But I have spoken and actually sent a letter to Nancy Pelosi and the president saying that we must address an issue of our ideals before the end of this year. And I believe that it should be don't ask, don't tell. I believe that we should hold up once again a national mirror to ourselves and say that's not who we are. We're better than that. And then move on. And again, I got to tell you, when you have former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, like General Shally Kashvili, coming out and saying it's time to throw this don't ask, don't tell discriminatory ban away, then I think it's time for him, for Congress, both to act on it this year.
Well, for one reason, we're fighting two wars. We need sharp people, and we're eliminating some very qualified people just because of their sexual preference.
You're right. Particularly when you read about some of the individuals who know how to speak Farsi or other types of language who sent to these schools, and all of a sudden, if they happen to say I'm gay, we lose that investment. I can remember as I was in the military, and you'd be walking around the ship, and a sailor would ask if he could talk to you, and he'd say, "Captain, I've got to tell you," and you just wanted to say, "Please don't tell me. You're so good, I can't afford to lose you." But he'd say it, and our hands were bound. We have to obey the law. Oh, yes. It's a tragedy because our service is less good because of it. Look, the greatest thing I ever saw around those 80-some countries I visited in 30-plus years in the Navy was why we're respected for the power of our military, respected for the power of our economy. We were admired for the power of our ideals. And I think this is just one of them. I really do.
The interesting thing is that this is just one of the, again, numerous things that last Saturday Night Live criticized the president for. But more importantly, the Post-Gazette, a firm supporter of President Obama, has taken him to task, given him a failing report card so far. Does this disturb you that he really hasn't accomplished anything he set out to do?
In this area? Yeah.
No, in all areas.
Well, look, I want to be President Obama's strongest ally. I mean, I really do. But we have to sit back and first I want to say he has addressed some of the cratering of the economy and has not, though, I think brought about, though, healthcare reform as rapidly as we might if he had put his hand on the tiller a bit more in Congress and led it. So let me say that he's really spot on with his policies by and large. I just think he can be a little more bold and a little more aggressive because I want to support him. And I got into this politics because my daughter had brain cancer, 4 years old. And because of my wonderful health care plan in the military, she's here at 8 years old. The same brain tumor Senator Kennedy had. I'm out here fighting for health care for everybody to be equally. And I do think, and I'm not sitting in this chair, that his great leadership could have us move more rapidly down the path if sometimes those who support him in the White House, who used to be, for example, in the Clinton administration, to where they felt that they didn't do health care well by running it too much from the White House, or where they got the policies, don't ask, don't tell, off on the wrong foot. Maybe he's getting some not so good advice from old-timers in the Clinton administration. I think he's best when he, as he did in the campaign, leads with audacity. So, yes, I'd like to be more bold and aggressive.
Congressman, can you hang on with me through the break? I want to talk to you more specifically about your race with Arlen Specter.
Thank you.
Congressman Joe Sestak is with us, Congressman from the Philadelphia area, running against Arlen Specter. He wants to be your U.S. Senator from Pennsylvania. It's Hans Man News Radio 1020, KDKA. Talking with Congressman Joe Sestak. He wants to be your U.S. Senator. He wants to replace Arlen Specter. You're down by double digits, Congressman. How are you going to overcome that?
Well, it's interesting. 4 months ago, 3 polls had me down 49 points, 47 points, and 38 points. Now they all have me in the teens. So we've had a vast shift since my announcement 8 weeks ago. Now, does that mean it's going to be a cakewalk? Absolutely not. That major challenge to me is name recognition, and I accept that. However, I only got into politics 3.5 years ago. And so I've got some work to do. But what I did get in for was principle. And when I go through the 67 counties, it's just not the polls, but it's people I speak with aren't asking me, who's endorsed you? Who do you know? They're not happy. They're not happy with Washington, D.C. And as long as I can get exposure to say, look, I'm a credible candidate, and yeah, I was in the military 3 decades, not Washington, D.C., but I've already produced more pieces of legislation this year than either other senators of Pennsylvania. I keep my district office open 7 days a week and have handled 3 times the constituency cases of any other congressman. And I intend to work that hard for you. I think that without a question, when May comes around for the primary, I'm going to be a little further ahead than just neck to neck. I intend to work for people, just like I work for my
Arlen Specter
tailors.
seems to be a master politician. He, like Ed Rendell, they're really master politicians. And he will honk people off one day and win their vote the next day. He had an organized labor all up in a tizzy saying he's not going to vote for card check. And then they welcome him at their convention here in Pittsburgh, and who knows how he's going to vote. I mean, he's a chameleon, but he does it well.
He does it very well. I mean, he's flip-flopped on card check, like you said. He's flip-flopped on his party. He's flip-flopped on public option for the health care plan. The point is this. I think the times are a little different right now. I think everybody understands they got placed in the savage recession because of deal-making in Washington, at times with special interest in Washington, D.C., and Wall Street. I think they understand that we have health premiums rising up because insurance companies are actually a monopoly in Pennsylvania, and there's special interest involved. Now, I honestly believe that, it's going to take grassroots. I mean, I got to bed the night before last at 1:30 a.m., and I was up at 5 a.m. to start traveling up to Schuylkill in order to do an event. That type of an approach is going to be tough. But I don't think political deal-making is what people are looking for now. They're not happy with the status quo. It's my hard work that is required to just demonstrate that there is a different way.
Are you getting the money you need because
yes.
You don't have the party back? You got Ed Rendell against you. You got the President of the United States against you.
Yeah,
Joe Biden, who all of a sudden Joe Biden's become a Pennsylvanian.
Yeah.
I don't know how that is.
Look, first of all, people have to keep in mind that we are Pennsylvanians. We're where the Whiskey Rebellion began. We're pretty independent-minded. We really are. Number two is money, yes. I mean, I've already got well over $4 million. There's real support. Will I outrace Arlen? Don't need to. What I will is have sufficient money to be on the air, not just like radio interviews like this, but when it comes time for paid media to say, here's what I think has gone wrong and here's what I will do in the future. No, I intend not just to be everywhere, but to raise sufficient funds. But most of all, I intend to run on the principle that it's about time Washington, D.C. really has somebody there that really does actually believe that you're supposed to keep your office open 7 days a week when this nation is hurting and actually take care of people walking in every day. And that's just the way I'm going to approach it.
And you're really fair to describe you as being true to democratic principles.
Without a question. Look, I want to make sure everybody understands, when I was in the U.S. military, I was proud to be an independent. And the reason for that was because I believe military officers are nonpartisan. It's what Colin Powell and Wesley Clark were, independents to the day they got out. But I got into this for health care reform because I saw in the military everybody had health care. When I went off to 11 and a half months for war, my family was covered and I was focused on the mission. I got in and fought to get on the education committee because you don't even promote anybody to senior chief petty officer in the Navy unless they've earned an associate's college degree in a technology, because we value knowledge. And that's the way Pennsylvanians have to be, because our cost of the public universities are like the third most expensive in the nation, and third. Right. I got in and got on small business committee because 70% of all jobs are created by small businesses, not big ones, and that's why I'm vice chairman of. Do I believe in investing in people? You bet I do.
All right,
and I will invest my time and effort that every day.
We'll have you back between now and the primary, I'm sure.
Thanks, and thanks for having me.
All right, Congressman Joe Sestak, who is running against Arlen Specter, and is an uphill battle. But the point that we wanted to make was he being a career military man, as he let us know over and over again, is for the elimination of don't ask, don't tell. And you know what? This is one place I've been for many years. I agree with the congressman. Who cares? Who cares if people serving in the military are gay? If they're proud to serve this country, let them serve this country.